Hello, welcome to Andy Tales. After watching the video, make sure there's no one else in the room. Don't forget to write your city and the time in the comments.
Welcome, everyone, to another chilling tale. Before we dive into the darkness, hit that like button if you're ready for some serious scares. Subscribe to join our community of thrill seekers, and drop a comment below. Tell us your creepiest late-night experience or what you think of this story. Your support keeps the nightmares coming. Now, buckle up, because this one's gonna crawl under your skin. Some places are better left alone. I learned that the hard way when a routine 911 call led me to an old railroad tunnel, a place the locals call the Hollow. What started as a search for a missing kid turned into a night I'll never escape, because something down there heard my name, and it's still laughing. My name's Nathan Brooks, and I'm a deputy sheriff in Boone County, Iowa. This is farm country, where the fields stretch flat and endless, broken only by grain silos and the thin scars of railroad tracks. I've been on the job 12 years, dealing with drunk drivers, stolen tractors, and the occasional runaway teen. It's quiet work, predictable, the kind that lets you think you've seen it all. But in March 2025, a single call shattered that illusion, pulling me into a darkness that's been growing under this land for centuries. What I found in that tunnel, what found me, hasn't let go, and I'm starting to believe it never will. It was a Friday night, cold enough to make your bones ache, the wind slicing through the fields like a blade. I was in my cruiser, parked near a gas station on Route 30, its neon sign flickering, buzzing like a dying insect. The dashboard clock read 10:52 p.m. when my radio crackled, and Karen, our dispatcher who's been at the desk longer than I've been alive, came through. Her voice was thin, unsteady, not like her usual steel. "Nathan, 911 from the old railroad tunnel off Carver Road. Caller's a woman, says her son, Ethan Miller, hasn't come home. He's 17, went to film some urban exploration video in the tunnel with friends. She got a voicemail, him screaming, then silence. No callback. The tunnel was a local legend, a century-old relic carved under a hill where the Burlington Northern Tracks ran. Built in 1896, it was a narrow, stone-lined throat, its walls blackened by soot and time. Kids called it the Hollow, whispering about train wrecks that never made the papers, workers buried alive, or something worse, something that laughed in the dark. I cleared out trespassers before, mostly teens with spray cans or cheap beer, but the stories always lingered, like a bad smell you can't shake. Karen's tone, though, made my gut twist, like she knew something she wasn't saying. "I'm en route," I said, pulling onto the highway. "Get me Ethan's mom's name and number." The fields blurred past, corn stubble catching my headlights, and the air through my cracked window carried a sour note, like rotting meat mixed with diesel. Carver Road was a gravel ribbon, barely wide enough for my cruiser, flanked by ditches and dead grass. I parked at the tunnel's mouth, a black gash in the hillside, its stone arch crumbling under moss and frost. My spotlight lit the entrance, catching faded graffiti, names, dates, a crudely drawn skull with hollow eyes. A bike lay in the dirt, chains snapped, handlebars twisted like someone had taken a crowbar to it. "Ethan's," I figured. I grabbed my flashlight and called out, "Boone County Sheriff! Ethan, you in there?" My voice echoed, coming back distorted, like someone was whispering it back. The wind carried a sound soft, high, like a child's laugh, but it stopped too fast, leaving only the rustle of dry weeds. I radioed Karen, sweeping my flashlight over the ground. "Found a bike, probably the kids. No sign of him or his friends. Send backup and see if Ethan's mom has more voicemails. Any word on who he was with?" Karen's voice crackled, static spiking. "Her name's Linda Miller. She says Ethan was with two others, Lila Hayes and Cody Brent, both 16. Another voicemail came in. Sounds worse. Be careful, Nathan. I stepped into the tunnel, the air turning damp and heavy, smelling of wet stone and something metallic, like old blood. The walls were slick, etched with scratches, not graffiti, but deep, frantic marks, like someone had clawed at the rock with their nails. 10 feet in, I found Ethan's camera, lens cracked, still recording, its red light blinking weakly. I hit play, and the screen flickered, showing shaky footage of the tunnel's interior. Ethan's voice, nervous but cocky, saying, "This place is creepy as hell. Lila, you getting this?" A girl's laugh, then a boy's voice, probably Cody, muttering, "I swear I heard something." Then came laughter. Not theirs, but high, childlike, echoing from deeper in. The footage jerked, Ethan shouting, "What the hell was that?" A shape flashed across the frame. Small, hunched, moving too fast, its outline wrong. The screen cut to static. My stomach churned, and I called out again, "Ethan, Lila, Cody." The laugh answered, closer, bouncing off the walls, now joined by a second, then a third, giggling in unison. The tunnel sloped downward, farther than it should have. County maps pegged it at 200 yards end to end, but I'd walked at least twice that, and the exit wasn't in sight. The air grew colder, my breath clouding, my flashlight's beam dimming, casting jagged shadows. I found more signs of the kids. A torn hoodie with Lila's name stitched on the tag, a sneaker caked in black, tar-like goo that stank of decay, and a phone, screen shattered, Cody's initials scratched on the case. The goo was everywhere now, streaking the walls, pooling on the ground, warm to the touch. The scratches formed patterns, circles with jagged lines, like teeth in a gaping maw. I gripped my gun, heart pounding, and whispered, "Sheriff's Department, come out now." The giggles surged, a chorus, and eyes glinted in the dark. Small, reflective, too many, darting like insects. My radio buzzed, Karen's voice faint. "Nathan," Linda says the second voicemail. Ethan was crying, said something about kids who aren't kids. Backup's 15 minutes out. "You okay?" Before I could answer, the tunnel shook, dirt raining from the ceiling, and a low hum started, like a hive waking up. I pressed deeper, following the goo trail, my boots sticking to the floor. The laughter was constant now, weaving around me, and I swore I heard my name, soft and teasing. "Nathan, come play." I spun, flashlight catching nothing but stone, but the shadows moved, folding in ways shadows shouldn't. The tunnel opened into a chamber, impossible for a rail line. Too wide, too deep, its ceiling lost in darkness. The walls were carved with those toothy circles, glowing sickly green, pulsing like a heartbeat. In the center was a pit, its edges jagged, the bottom a void that swallowed my flashlight's beam. Scattered around it were objects. A kid's backpack, a broken watch, a doll with no eyes, a rusted lantern, all coated in that black goo, which seemed to writhe under the light. Ethan's phone lay at the pit's edge, screen glowing, playing the voicemail on loop. His voice, raw with terror. "Mom, they're laughing. They're not kids. They're coming, help." It cut to screams, his, Lila's, Cody's, then silence. The laughter erupted from the pit, a chorus of childlike voices, and shapes moved below. Small, skittering, their outlines wrong, like children drawn by a broken hand. "Ethan, Lila, Cody," I shouted, aiming my gun. A figure stepped into the light. Not one of the kids, but something else, no taller than a child. Its skin gray and slick, like wet clay. Its eyes were polished coins, glinting, its mouth a grin that stretched ear to ear, showing needle-like teeth. It giggled, tilting its head, and others joined it, crawling from the pit, their limbs too thin, heads too large, moving like spiders on a web. "Nathan, play with us," they sang, their voices layering, filling the chamber. My flashlight died, plunging me into dark, and the air turned thick, pressing against my chest, the hum now a roar in my skull. I fired, the shots deafening, but the figures didn't flinch, their laughter swallowing the sound. My radio screamed, static mixed with a voice, not Karen's, whispering, "You're home, stay." I stumbled back, tripping over something soft. Ethan, slumped against the wall, alive but barely, his face pale, eyes wide, muttering, "They live down there. They want more. They know you now." His hands were smeared with the goo, his nails torn from clawing the stone. I grabbed him, hauling him toward the tunnel, the shapes following, their giggles turning to screeches, their coin eyes glinting in the green glow. The goo reached for my boots, tendrils curling, and the walls pulsed, the symbols brighter, like they were alive. I dragged Ethan, his weight slowing me, his mutters growing frantic. "They've always been here. Under the tracks, they take what they want." The tunnel seemed to stretch, the entrance a distant speck, and the laughter wove my name. "Nathan, you belong." I fired again, blindly. The muzzle flash showing dozens of those things, crawling along the walls, their grins splitting wider. My lungs burned, the air so thick it felt like drowning, and the hum was everywhere, shaking my bones. We reached the entrance, Ethan's body dragging in the dirt. I shoved him into the cruiser, slamming the door as the laughter surged, now mixed with a deeper sound, like a heartbeat from the earth itself. The tunnel's mouth seemed to pulse, the stone arch flexing, and I swore I saw hands, small, gray, clawing at the edges. I peeled out, gravel flying, the rearview mirror showing nothing but darkness, but the giggles followed, faint, like they were in the car. Backup deputies Carter and Lyle arrived as I hit the highway, their faces paling when I stammered out what I'd seen. "You're shaking, Nate," Carter said, his voice low. "What the hell's in there?" They searched the tunnel at dawn with a full team, 6 deputies, a K9 unit, even a surveyor. They found nothing, no chamber, no pit, no goo, no symbols. The walls were bare, the floor dry, like I'd imagined it all. Ethan's camera was blank, its memory wiped, and his phone was dead, the voicemail gone. The hoodie, the sneaker, Cody's phone, all missing, like they'd never been there. Ethan was taken to a hospital in Ames, but he hasn't spoken, just stares at the ceiling, humming that laughter, his fingers twitching like he's still clawing. Lila and Cody are still missing, their parents calling the station daily, their voices breaking. I went back to the station, hands shaking, and pulled every record on the tunnel. The hollow wasn't just a nickname. Rail workers in the 1890s called it cursed, refusing to work after dark. A 1910 report detailed a collapse that killed 6, their bodies never found, with survivors swearing they heard giggling before the rocks fell. In 1934, a hobo vanished inside, leaving a journal about kids who watched from the walls. Locals avoided the tunnel, saying it led to the underneath, a place older than the land where something hungry waited. I found a photo from 1898, the tunnel's construction. Workers posed proudly, but in the shadows, small figures stood, their faces blurred, too many to be crew. A 1950s newspaper clipping mentioned a boy, 14, who ran into the tunnel on a dare and never came out, his mother claiming she heard him laugh in her dreams. I drove to Linda Miller's house, Ethan's mom, a small ranch-style place with a sagging porch. She was a wreck, eyes red, clutching a photo of Ethan, smiling, holding a skateboard. "He was just a kid," she said, voice hollow. "He sent me this before he went in." She showed me a text, "Mom, tunnel's dope. Gonna be a sick video." Then the voicemails, which she'd saved. The first was Ethan, panicked, "Mom, something's here, they're laughing." The second, worse, his voice breaking, "They're not kids, they're coming." "I'm sorry." I recorded them, promising to keep looking, but her eyes said she knew Ethan was gone, even if he was still breathing. I talked to the families of Lila and Cody too. Lila's dad, a farmer with hands like leather, showed me her sketchbook drawings of the tunnel, the toothy circles dated weeks before she vanished. She was obsessed, he said, voice cracking. Said she heard voices calling her there. Cody's mom gave me his laptop where I found a half-edited video of the tunnel uploaded to a private link. It was shaky like Ethan's but showed Lila pointing at the walls, saying, "Look, they're moving." The footage cut off, but not before a giggle, sharp and wrong, filled the audio. I sent it to the techs, but they said the file corrupted. Unreadable. The tunnel's history went deeper than I expected. I found a settler's diary from 1840, pre-railroad, describing a cleft in the hill where the ground hummed and children went missing. The Sauk tribe, who lived here before, called it the Laughing Mouth, warning settlers to seal it with stones. A 1902 letter from a rail engineer mentioned workers quitting, claiming small hands grabbed them in the dark. Every decade, someone vanished, kids mostly, but also hobos, surveyors, even a deputy in 1976, last seen entering the tunnel after a vandalism call. His report, buried in the archives, described eyes in the walls and a hum that made his teeth ache. He was never found. Days after, things got worse. My cruiser's radio started picking up laughter even when powered down, soft and childlike, saying my name, sometimes Ethan's, Lila's, Cody's. Driving at night, I'd see shapes in the fields, small, skittering, gone when I turned. My apartment door had scratches, those toothy circles etched overnight. I started dreaming of the tunnel, walking into the pit, the gray things crawling over me, their coin eyes glinting, their laughter in my head. I'd wake gasping, my sheets damp with that black goose stench, though my hands were clean. I went back to the tunnel, alone, a week later, at dusk. I don't know why something pulled me like a hook in my chest. The gate was new, steel bars welded tight, but the laughter came through, faint, teasing. I found a stone outside, warm, carved with that toothy circle, and when I touched it, my flashlight died, the air humming. Footprints, small, bare, webbed, led into the dirt, stopping at the gate. I took photos, but they came out blank, just gray smudges. The bike was back, upright, like someone had placed it there, its frame now scratched with those symbols. Karen stopped asking about that night, but she's been digging through old files, her face gray. This county's got too many missing kids, she said, showing me a list, dozens, going back to the 1800s, all linked to the tunnel. Carter and Lyle won't patrol Carver Road anymore, and the K9 unit refused to enter the tunnel, the dogs whining, tails tucked. I talked to a local historian, an old woman named Ruth who grew up near the tracks. The hollow's always been hungry, she said, her hands trembling. It takes kids because they're curious, but it keeps them because they're loud. You heard it, didn't you? I nodded and she pressed a cross into my hand, whispering, "Don't go back." But it's not that simple. My radio's laughter is louder now, waking me at 3 a.m., clear as a bell. "Nathan, come play. I found the goo in my apartment, a smear on my kitchen counter, another on my badge, warm and pulsing. My mirrors show eyes, small and glinting, gone when I blink. Last month, a package arrived, no sender, a stone, like the one outside the tunnel, and a note in smudged charcoal. You saw the hollow. It saw you." Inside was a photo of the tunnel's mouth, taken at night. I was in it, standing at the entrance, though I hadn't been back. Behind me, dozens of gray figures stood, their coin eyes glowing, their grins wide. Ethan's face was among them, his mouth open, laughing. I don't patrol Carver Road anymore. The tunnel's still there, its gate rusted now, like it's been there years. Locals report lights inside, laughter at midnight, tracks leading in but never out. Carter's file on missing persons is growing, 4 more kids gone since my night, all last seen near the hollow. I keep the photo and stone in a locked box, but at night, I hear the box rattle, the stone humming, the photo crinkling like something's moving inside. I've started sleepwalking, waking at my door, my hands scratched, smelling of that goo. Whatever's under those tracks, it knows my name and it's waiting for me to come back. One night, I'm afraid I will. I answered a 911 call expecting a routine check, but the voices I heard weren't human. They knew my name, my secrets, my past. Now, every phone I touch hums with their whispers, and I'm terrified they're calling me back to a place I'll never leave. My name's Elena Vasquez, and I'm a police officer in Weld County, Colorado. This is a patchwork of suburban sprawl and forgotten industrial zones where strip malls fade into rusted factories and empty fields. I've been on the force 9 years, handling everything from noisy neighbors to hit-and-runs. I thought I'd seen the worst this job could offer until April 2025, when a call pulled me to an abandoned telephone exchange station that's carved itself into my nightmares. What I heard there, what spoke to me, hasn't stopped, and I'm starting to believe it's wired into me now, waiting for me to answer. It was a Tuesday night, the sky heavy with clouds, the air thick with the threat of rain. I was in my cruiser, parked outside a diner on Highway 85, its neon sign flickering like a dying pulse against my windshield. My radio crackled at 11:19 p.m. and dispatch Marvin, a gruff veteran who's seen it all, came through, his voice tight, almost hesitant. Elena, 911 from the Old Bell Exchange on Pike Road. Caller's a security guard, says he heard noises, voices, maybe screams inside the building. Said it's been empty for years, but he saw lights moving. Line went dead before he gave his name. The Bell Exchange was a ghost of the past, a squat, concrete box from the 1950s, abandoned when the phone company went digital in the 90s. Its chain-link fence sagged, its lot choked with weeds and broken glass. Locals steered clear, spinning tales of phantom calls, shadows in the windows, workers who walked in and never came out. I'd driven past it countless times, its blank facade giving nothing away, but Marvin's tone made my skin crawl like he was holding something back. "I'm en route," I said, pulling onto the highway. The road was deserted, the diner's glow fading in my rear view, and a faint hum, like static from an old TV, buzzed in my ears, though my radio was quiet. Pike Road was a dead-end strip flanked by crumbling warehouses and rusted silos. I parked at the station's gate, my headlights catching the building's gray, windowless front, its steel door rusted but cracked open, swaying slightly. A security company sign hung crookedly on the fence, but no guard was in sight, no car, no footprints, just the wind rattling the chain link. I grabbed my flashlight and called out, "Weld County Police. Anyone here?" My voice fell flat, swallowed by the night, and the hum grew louder, now a low buzz, like a phone left off the hook. I radioed Marvin, my flashlight sweeping the lot, catching glints of broken glass and something else, thin, black wires coiled in the dirt like they'd crawled out of the building. I pushed the door open, its hinges shrieking, and stepped inside. The air was stale, heavy with dust and a sharp, electric tang, like a storm trapped in concrete. The main room was a labyrinth of old switchboards, their panels tangled with wires, some frayed, some sparking faintly, casting jittery shadows. My flashlight caught papers scattered on the floor, work logs from 1994, yellowed, listing calls with no origin, numbers that didn't exist. A desk held a rotary phone, its receiver dangling, emitting a faint, rhythmic beep like a heartbeat. I called out again, "Police? Show yourself." The beep stopped and a whisper answered, soft and layered like a crowd speaking at once. "Elena, you're here." I froze, my pulse hammering. The whisper wasn't from the room, it was in my head, clear as my own thoughts, cold as ice. I lifted the receiver, but the line was dead, the dial tone replaced by those whispers, now forming words. "You know us, you left us." My flashlight flickered, its beam dimming, and the shadows on the walls moved, stretching too long, curling like fingers. I dropped the phone, backing away, and radioed Marvin, my voice shaking. "No guard, doors open, something's off. Send backup and check the security company's logs for this guard." Marvin's reply was choppy, static spiking. "Elena, company says the guard, Tom Reese, hasn't checked in for hours. Backup's 10 minutes out. Be careful." The whispers didn't stop, weaving my name, now joined by others. My sister, Rosa, dead 5 years from cancer. My old partner, Jake, retired after a shooting. My mother, gone since I was a kid. "Elena, you failed, you lied." I shook my head, gripping my gun, and moved deeper, following fresh footprints in the dust. Boots, heavy, leading to a stairwell descending to a basement. The steps were concrete, slick with condensation, the air colder, the ozone smell sharper, like a lightning strike frozen in time. The walls were lined with cables, thick and black, some pulsing with faint, white light like veins under skin. My flashlight caught scratches on the walls. Names, dates, please, they hear everything. Don't answer. Scratch deep, some still wet, like they'd been carved minutes ago. At the bottom was a control room, its consoles blanketed in dust, screens cracked but glowing faintly, showing static that flickered with shapes. Faces, maybe too fast to see. A tape recorder sat on a table, its reels spinning, playing a loop of static mixed with voices. Male, female, young, old, all pleading, "Help us, don't leave." I hit stop, but the voices continued, now from the walls, the wires, the air itself. "Elena, you forgot." My flashlight dimmed further and I saw it. A figure at the room's edge, tall, humanoid, but wrong. Its body a writhing mass of wires and flesh, its face a blank screen, flickering with static. Its mouth opened, a slit of light, and the whispers surged. "You called us, you stay." I drew my gun, shouting, "Police, back off." The figure didn't move, but the wires on the walls twitched, reaching like tendrils, brushing my jacket, cold as frost. My radio screamed, static now a voice, not Marvin's, saying, "You're ours, always were." The screens lit up, showing faces, not mine, but people I knew. Rosa, her eyes hollow, whispering, "You didn't come." Jake, his face scarred, muttering, "You let me fall." A kid I'd arrested years ago, his voice a hiss, "You ruined me." They spoke my name, their mouths moving in sync, their eyes black pits. I fired a warning shot, the sound swallowed by the hum, and the figure flickered, its screen face shifting to Rose's, then mine, then nothing. I bolted for the stairs, the wires coiling, snagging my boots, their touch burning cold. The whispers grew personal, clawing at my past. "You left Rosa to die, you betrayed Jake, you hid the truth." My flashlight died, plunging me into dark, but the screen's glow followed, casting my shadow, twisted, wrong. I tripped on a logbook, its pages spilling. Entries from 1994, in frantic handwriting. "Unknown caller, no number, knows my name. Voices in the wires, not human. They see what I did." The last page, in red ink, read, "They're listening. They never stop. I'm sorry." The figure was closer, its screen showing my mother's face, her voice soft, "Why didn't you love me?" I kicked free, scrambling upstairs, the building shaking, switchboards sparking, their dials spinning wildly. The main room was alive, phones ringing in unison, their receivers floating, spewing static and my name. Wires crawled across the floor, weaving a web, and the air hummed, heavy, like it was breathing. The steel door was shut, the lock clicked, and the figures multiplied, their screen faces shifting. Rosa, Jake, me, strangers, all whispering my secrets. "You lied about the shooting. You ignored her calls, you're guilty." I smashed a chair against the door, splintering it, and stumbled into the lot, gasping, as the ringing stopped, the hum fading to silence. Backup, Officers Diaz and Patel, arrived as I reached my cruiser, their faces hard when I tried to explain. "You look like hell, Vasquez," Diaz said, his flashlight sweeping the lot. They searched the station, finding nothing, no figures, no glowing screens, no ringing phones. The logbook was blank, its pages brittle but empty, like the words had been erased. The tape recorder was silent, its tape melted, unusable. Tom Reese, the guard, was found 2 miles away, sitting in a ditch, muttering about voices that knew his crimes. Deaths, affairs, a hit and run he'd buried. He didn't remember calling 911, didn't know how he'd gotten there. I went back to the station, hands shaking, and dug into the Bell Exchange's history, pulling every record I could find. The station closed in 1995 after workers reported phantom calls, some from numbers that didn't exist, others from their own homes, voices mimicking loved ones. A 1962 engineer, Harold Klein, vanished inside, leaving a note, "The wires talk." They remember everything. A 1978 janitor heard his dead wife's voice through the switchboard, then walked into traffic, smiling. Locals swore the station was built on a burial ground, its cables tapping into something older, something that listened, that judged. A 1989 report listed 3 teens missing after breaking in, their car found running, a tape recorder inside playing their own voices, begging to be let out. Every few years, someone disappeared, workers, guards, explorers, all linked to the station, all after hearing whispers. I visited Reese at the hospital, a gray building that smelled of bleach. He was sedated, his eyes darting, his hands clutching a rosary. "They knew me," he whispered, voice raw. "Everything I've done, every lie, every sin. They wanted me to stay." I showed him a photo of the station and he screamed, thrashing until the nurses restrained him. His chart noted hallucinations, but I saw scratches on his arms, names, dates, like the ones on the basement walls. I tracked down the security company, but their logs showed no call, no assignment for Reese that night, like he'd gone on his own. I dug deeper, finding a 1950s blueprint of the station marking a sub-basement not listed in modern records. A 1960s maintenance log described cables that moved when cut, sparking without power. A local historian, Agnes Moore, met me at a coffee shop, her hands trembling as she spoke. "The station's not just a building," she said. "It's a mouth. The wires are its tongue, tasting everyone who enters." "You heard it, didn't you?" I nodded, and she pressed a locket into my hand, whispering, "Burn sage. Stay away." The locket held a photo of a woman, her mother, she said, who worked at the station and vanished in 1970, leaving a note, "The voices know." My life unraveled after that night. My phone rings at odd hours, no caller ID, just static and whispers, my name, Rosa's, Jake's, my mother's. They recite my guilt, the night I ignored Rosa's call, too busy with work, the shooting I covered up, letting Jake take the fall, the lies I told myself to sleep. My radio picks up voices, even unplugged, whispering secrets I've buried, things no one could know. I found wires in my apartment, thin and black, coiled in drawers, under my pillow, woven into my clothes, though I live 20 miles from the station. My mirrors show faces, flickering like static. Rosa, Jake, me, their eyes black, their mouths moving, saying, "You're still here." I started dreaming of the station, walking its halls, the wires wrapping me, the screens showing my life, every mistake, every regret. I wake with scratches on my arms, names I don't know, dates from decades ago. Last month, a voicemail appeared on my phone, no source, my own voice, whispering, "You never left, come back." A photo came with it, of the control room, taken from above. I was in it, standing by the tape recorder, my face blank, wires coiled around my legs, though I'd never seen a camera. I deleted it, but my phone keeps downloading it, the file timestamped years in the future. I went back to the station, alone, at dawn, a week later. I don't know why something pulled me like a signal in my blood. The fence was down, the door wide open, the air humming. Inside, the switchboards were lit, dials spinning, phones ringing softly. A new logbook lay on the desk, open to a blank page, but as I watched, words appeared, in my handwriting. "Elena, you're home." I ran, the whispers chasing me. "You belong, you always did." The cruiser's radio screamed as I drove away, playing Rosa's voice, "Why didn't you save me?" I don't patrol Pike Road anymore. The station's still there, its cables humming under the earth, its windows black as eyes. Locals report lights at night, phones ringing in empty fields, voices calling from payphones long disconnected. Diaz's missing persons file grows. 7 more since my night. All last seen near the station. I lock the locket and logbook in a safe, but at night, I hear them. The locket clicking, the pages turning, the wires humming my name. Whatever's in those cables, it heard me, it knows me, and it's waiting for me to pick up the line again. One night, I'm afraid I will. I thought a missing persons call was just another day on the job, but the shadows I saw in that quarry weren't cast by anything human. They knew my name, my sins, and they're still following me, waiting for me to step back into the dark. My name's Daniel Harper, and I'm a sheriff in Grayson County, Kentucky. This is tobacco country where rolling hills hide old quarries and secrets older than the limestone they carved. I've been on the job 15 years, handling moonshiners, lost hikers, and bar fights that spill into the dust. I thought I knew every shadow this land could cast until May 2025, when a 911 call led me to an abandoned quarry that's burned itself into my soul. What I found there, what found me, hasn't let go, and I'm starting to believe it never will. It was a warm Saturday night, the air thick with the scent of cut grass and the low rumble of distant thunder. I was in my cruiser, parked at a crossroads on Route 62, the stars half hidden by clouds rolling in from the west. My radio crackled at 9:47 p.m. and dispatch Lydia, whose calm as stone even during a crisis, sounded shaken, her voice clipped and sharp. Daniel, 911 from the old Grayson quarry off Hollow Road. Caller's a park ranger, says a geologist, Dr. Alan Voss, hasn't checked in. He was mapping the quarry, went in alone yesterday. Ranger heard shouts, saw lights moving in the pit, then nothing. Line cut off, no callback. The Grayson quarry was a local scar, a limestone pit abandoned in the 80s after a cave-in killed 3 workers. Its cliffs were jagged, its depths drowned in black water that swallowed light. Kids dared each other to sneak past the rusted fences, whispering about drownings, ghosts, or shadows that moved without a source. I'd patrolled its perimeter, shooing off vandals with spray cans, but never ventured deep. The place felt wrong, like the air held its breath. Lydia's tone turned that feeling into a knot in my gut. I'm en route, I said, pulling onto the road. Get me Voss's details and see if the rangers filed anything else. The highway stretched empty, my headlights carving through the dark, and a faint smell, like wet stone and decay, crept through my cracked window. Hollow Road was a dirt track, rutted and overgrown, winding through pines that leaned too close. I parked at the quarry's edge where a sagging chain-link fence marked the boundary, its no trespassing signs faded to ghosts. My spotlight lit the entrance, a gravel path sloping into the pit, flanked by sheer limestone walls, their surfaces pitted and scarred. A pickup truck sat abandoned, its driver's door open, keys dangling in the ignition. Voss's, I assumed. I grabbed my flashlight and called out Grayson County Sheriff. Dr. Voss, you there? My voice echoed, bouncing off the cliffs, but the echo came back wrong, slower, like someone was repeating it in a whisper. The air hummed, low and steady, like a tuning fork struck deep in the earth. I radioed Lydia, my flashlight sweeping the ground, catching fresh tire tracks and footprints, boots, deep, leading into the pit. Found a truck, likely Voss's. No sign of him or the ranger. Send backup and check if Voss had a team. This place feels off. Lydia's reply crackled, static spiking. Daniel, Voss was solo, contracted by the state for a survey. Ranger's name is Paul Kent, hasn't reported in. Be careful, locals say that quarry's bad news. I stepped past the fence, the gravel crunching under my boots, and the hum grew louder, vibrating in my chest. The smell of decay was stronger now, mixed with something sharp, like ozone after a storm. The path descended, the cliffs closing in, their surfaces etched with scratches, not natural, but deliberate, forming spirals and jagged lines, like claw marks stretched into symbols. 20 yards in, I found Voss's gear, a backpack, torn open, its contents scattered, a notebook, a water bottle, a cracked GPS unit blinking weakly. The notebook's pages were filled with sketches of the quarry, notes about anomalous readings, and light without source. One page, in red ink, read, "They're watching. They move in the dark." My flashlight caught something else, a smear of black, tar-like sludge on the ground. Warm to the touch, pulsing faintly. I called out again, Sheriff's Department. Voss, Kent, show yourselves. The hum surged and a shadow flickered across the cliff, too tall, too thin, gone when I turned. I followed the footprints, the path narrowing, the cliffs towering like sentinels. The air grew colder, my breath clouding, and the shadows seemed to shift, stretching without light to cast them. I found a camera, its lens shattered, still recording. I hit play, and the screen flickered, showing Voss, a middle-aged man with glasses, panning across the quarry, his voice tense. Day 2, deeper than planned. Something's here, lights, moving, not ours. A sound like a low chuckle cut in and Voss spun, shouting, "Who's there?" The footage ended in static, but not before a shape flashed across the frame, humanoid, but wrong, its edges blurred like it was made of shadow itself. My stomach twisted and I radioed Lydia, "Got Voss's camera, footage is bad. Where's my backup?" Her voice was faint, drowned by static. 10 out, Daniel, watch your back. The path ended at a ledge overlooking the quarry's heart, a vast, open pit, its floor lost in darkness, the black water below glinting like oil. A rope ladder hung from the ledge, swaying, its rungs smeared with that sludge. The footprints stopped here, but scratches marked the limestone, fresh, forming those same spirals, now glowing faintly, sickly green. The hum was deafening, shaking the ground, and shadows moved below, darting across the water, too many, too fast. "Voss! Kent!" I shouted, my voice swallowed by the pit. A chuckle answered, deep and layered, like a crowd laughing in unison, and my flashlight flickered, its beam dimming. The shadows climbed the walls, their shapes sharpening, tall, thin, with limbs too long, heads tilted, no faces, just voids where eyes should be. I drew my gun, heart pounding. "Sheriff's Department. Come out now." The chuckle grew, weaving my name. "Daniel, you're here." The shadows spoke, their voices a chorus, cold and sharp, digging into my past. "You failed her, you lied, you ran." I stumbled back, my flashlight catching a figure on the ledge, not Voss, not Kent. But one of them, its body a writhing mass of shadow, its void face splitting into a grin. My radio screamed, static mixed with a voice, not Lydia's, whispering, "You belong, you always did." I fired, the shot echoing, but the figure vanished, the shadows scattering, only to reform, closer, their grins wider. I climbed down the ladder, the sludge burning cold against my hands, driven by a need I couldn't name. The pit's floor was uneven, littered with debris, tools, a hard hat, a geologist's hammer, all coated in that sludge. A notebook lay open, Voss's handwriting frantic. "They're not shadows. They're what's left. They know me." Beside it was a photo, old, sepia-toned, showing quarry workers from the 1920s, their faces blurred, shadows behind them, too tall, too thin. The chuckles turned to whispers, naming my sins. "You left Sarah, you hid the truth, you let him die, Sarah, my wife, gone after a fight I never resolved, the deputy I couldn't save, his blood on my hands." The shadows circled, their void faces flickering with Sarah's eyes, her voice hissing, "Why didn't you stay?" I found Voss, slumped against a boulder, alive but broken, his eyes wide, muttering, "They see everything, they keep it, they want you too." His hands were scratched raw, the spirals carved into his palms. I grabbed him, hauling him toward the ladder, the shadows closing in, their whispers a roar, "Daniel, stay." The sludge moved, pooling around my boots, and the walls pulsed, the symbols brighter, like eyes opening. I fired again, the muzzle flash showing dozens of those things, their limbs stretching, their grins splitting into maws. Voss screamed, "They're in the stone. They've always been here." I dragged him up, the ladder swaying, the shadows climbing, their fingers brushing my legs, cold as death. We reached the ledge, Voss's weight dragging me down. The shadows followed, their whispers now screams, my name a chant. I stumbled to my cruiser, shoving Voss inside, and peeled out, the rearview mirror showing shadows spilling from the pit, their forms dissolving into the night. Backup deputies Walsh and Carter arrived as I hit Hollow Road, their faces pale when I explained. "You're bleeding, Dan," Walsh said, pointing to my hands scratched with those spirals, though I hadn't felt it. They searched the quarry, finding nothing, no shadows, no sludge, no symbols. Voss's camera was blank, the notebook gone, the photo vanished. Voss was taken to a hospital, but he hasn't spoken, just scratches at his arms, drawing those spirals, his eyes fixed on the dark. I dug into the quarry's history, my hands unsteady, pulling records from the station's basement. The Grayson Quarry was cursed from the start. Workers in the 1890s reported shadows that followed them, tools vanishing, chuckles in the dark. A 1923 cave-in killed 12, their bodies never recovered, with survivors swearing the shadows laughed as the rocks fell. Locals called it the hallowed ground, saying the limestone held something older, something that watched. A 1950s geologist disappeared, leaving a journal about shapes in the stone that knew his name. A 1978 photo in the archives showed the quarry's opening, workers posing, but shadows stood behind them, too tall, their faces voids. Every decade, someone vanished, miners, teens, surveyors, all linked to the quarry, all after seeing shadows. I visited Voss's office, a cluttered trailer in Leachfield, his assistant, Clara, pale and jumpy. He was obsessed, she said, showing me his notes, maps of the quarry, readings of unexplained energy, sketches of those spirals. He said the shadows weren't empty, they remembered. She gave me a USB drive, Voss's last upload. A video of him in the pit, whispering, "They're here, they know me." A chuckle cut in, and shadows moved, their void faces clear for a moment, one resembling Voss's father, dead 20 years. The file corrupted when I tried to copy it, my laptop sparking, the screen flickering with those same faces. I talked to Paul Kent's family, the ranger. His wife, Ellen, showed me his journal, entries about the quarry, lights at night, not human. Voices calling my name. The last page, dated the day he vanished, read, "They're in the shadows. They want me to join them." Ellen cried, clutching his badge, saying he heard them for weeks. I checked with the State Park Service. They had no record of Kent's 911 call, like it never happened. His truck was found a county over, empty, its dashboard scratched with those spirals. The quarry's past went deeper than I thought. A 1840s settler's diary buried in the county archives described a cleft in the hills where shadows danced without light, where the ground whispered. The Cherokee, who lived here before, called it the place of the kept, warning against digging too deep. A 1901 newspaper clipping reported a miner who ran from the quarry, screaming about shadows that spoke his crimes, then drowned himself in the river. A 1930s preacher claimed the quarry was a gate, its shadows, souls that never left, feeding on guilt. Every missing persons file, dozens, stretching back centuries, mentioned shadows, whispers, spirals in the stone. Things got worse after that night. My radio picks up chuckles even when off, soft and layered, saying my name, Sarah's, the deputy I lost. Driving at night, I see shadows in the fields, tall and thin, gone when I look twice. My house has scratches on the doors, those spirals etched overnight. I've started dreaming of the quarry standing in the pit, the shadows wrapping me, their void faces showing Sarah, whispering, "You failed." I wake with limestone dust on my hands, though I haven't been back. Last week, a package arrived, no sender, a stone, warm, carved with that spiral, and a note in smudged ink. "You saw the hollowed ground. It saw you." Inside was a photo of the quarry's pit taken at night. I was in it, standing at the ledge, though I'd never stood there. Shadows stood behind me, their void faces grinning, one wearing Sarah's eyes. I don't patrol Hollow Road anymore. The quarry's still there, its fences rusted, its pit silent. Locals report lights at night, chuckles from the cliffs, footprints leading in but never out. Walsh's missing persons file grows. 6 more since my night. All last seen near the quarry. I keep the stone and photo in a locked drawer. But at night, I hear the drawer rattle, the stone humming, the photo crinkling like something's moving inside. Whatever's in that quarry, it knows my name, my past, and it's waiting for me to return. One night, I'm afraid I won't be able to resist.